Toronto Blue Jays are forced into an impossible decision as we are now just days away from the first ALDS in almost a decade. For this team, Ross Atkins and company are forced not only into an impossible decision surrounding one key player, but we have some new updates and new reports that have dropped that have changed things drastically. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, as well as a few other updates ahead of what's going to be a big game on Saturday, as we have some more insight into not only who the Jays' opponent could be, but also an interesting note surrounding that team. Ton to go over before we get into it all, folks. If you're part of the percentage and subscribe to the channel, you guys have been absolute beasts with the support. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're all enjoying the off days and, of course, enjoying the stress-free baseball. It was a fun wildcard game to watch yesterday. We have a tidbit on that at the end of the video, but I want to start with the big decision that the Jays have surrounding their roster. And we're going to dive into a Bichette update in a little bit here, because there is there's going to be Bichette updates every day, but a lot of what their choices are surrounding their roster relies on Bichette. But let's start with this and give some rules and context. Shout out to this article from Ben Nicholson-Smith. But for those unsure, at least for those who didn't know, each team gets 26 roster spots for the postseason with a maximum of 13 pitchers allowed, and rosters can be reset for each series. So that's very interesting, which means you have to get rid of 2 players compared to, of course, your 28-man roster because of the extended September. With that being said, folks, let's go through the pitchers, the hitters, and then discuss the update on Bichette, and of course what this means as it pertains to Bichette going forward, but also how the Jays handle their their roster moves, because people are going to be left off who a lot of you guys I'm sure wouldn't want left off. Now, apparent locks. This is per Shidavidi, or per Ben Nicholson-Smith and Shidavidi. Gausman, Bieber, Savage, Hoffman, Sir Anthony, Yariel, Verlin, Little, and Lauer. So those seem to be the guys, according to Ben Nicholson-Smith, that are locked into a roster spot, which is a little bit ridiculous. Quite frankly, just kind of ludicrous. However, and ludicrous for one reason. Look at the additional candidates: Bassett, Scherzer, Nance, Flaherty, Braden, Fisher. Now, Berríos is going to be out the first round, we assume. No Braden Fisher potentially here. I mean, Chris Bassett, we presume, is going to be back, but there's so many different, just ridiculous amount of, outcomes that could happen here. And it's a factor to consider. There's more variability in the pitching side, depending on how many arms they plan to carry, who they're playing, whatever. But folks, do you agree or do you disagree that there is no world that this team goes without Braden Fisher? Because that is just absolutely ludicrous to me, because Braden Fisher has been one of their best relievers. Max Scherzer, I could see a big world where he's left off, but they're forced into a tough decision here. You have to pick between a guy like, let's say, Yariel and Braden Fisher, Chris Bassett, Max Scherzer. How are they going to kind of factor into the equation here as it pertains to specifically where are they going to go with it? Because a lot of it ends up being on matchups. But for Ben Nicholson-Smith to not have Braden Fisher in the apparent locks is a little bit wild to me, especially ahead of a guy like Yariel, who's had a great year for sure, but has had some big up and downs and a bit more downs than ups lately. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. These are the impossible decisions I'm talking about, and things have it's going to be very difficult to decide here. And a lot of this is going to depend, of course, on who they play. A bit more into that later. Let's go to the position player side of things. Of course, a lot of the guys here, Kirk and Heineman, 1-2. You need to have a backup catcher. Vladdy, Jimenez, Clement, Berger, Santander is an apparent lock. Springer, Versho, and a lot of the rest of the guys. But the decision becomes between Bichette, Loperfido, IKF. Now, Bichette, again, I covered this in yesterday's video. Given that he's yet to start running and is still only hitting off a tee, there could be, an outcome here where he doesn't make the team. But I want to ask you guys this question. Let's say he's only available to DH, but they think he's going to be available for game 3 or whatever. Are they going to risk putting him on the team? Are they just going to try to give him the full series off in hopes they can advance the ALCS? I don't think you can do that unless he's completely done for. If there's a chance he can play, he has to make the team. And for Anthony Santander here to be an apparent lock, it makes sense, right? He was kind of taking over the at-bats that Joey Loperfido would have had, both in the field and, at the plate. Of course, they play the same position. It is going to be rough, and I do think IKF also makes this team, especially if Bichette remains down. And again, latest update on him, it doesn't seem like he's going to be available for the ALDS, which makes things even more interesting here, especially as it pertains to the fact that they have IKF. You have Ernie Clement, who's been great. Andres Jimenez is going to play shortstop, but Bo is who is needed here. And for him to be additional candidates not only further solidifies the fact that there's a real world he misses the ALDS, but this is a tough decision, especially if he's 50-50 on returning. I think if there's any chance he plays, they're going to throw him on the roster. But even a guy like Loperfido has been good all year. IKF, Ty France, I think they're going to leave those guys off. I think IKF might get in. You then have to get rid of somebody else. We can dive into, and I'll have a full video probably covering, a bit of a preview video later on this week once the opponents, of course, made up here and decided. But it is going to be super, super intriguing. And let me know down below for both of these, who would your, let's say, 9 locks be? Who would be the players that you have as in your mind right now as locked in for the for the team? Now, again, keep in mind here, just to go over the rules, they had 13 pitchers allowed, right? So I'm not saying that the additional candidates can't make it. You can still pick, I guess, 4 of those, or depending on how things go. But at the same time, like, for me, Braden Fisher is an absolute lock. There's no doubt about it. But they do have to be selective here with who they pick and who they bring on. And something else to mention before I wrap up, again, I'll leave the link to this article in the description. But a lot of this depends on who they face. If it's the Yankees, you're going to need lefties. If it's the Red Sox, you'll probably still need lefties. They have Duran, they have Yoshida, Nathaniel Lowe, Wilbur Abreu. Of course, the Yankees are filled with lefties. If they go up against the Yankees, there's a good chance they probably don't carry Max Scherzer because of the fact that A, he's going to get crushed by Yankees hitters, but B, a lot more lefties. Now, if Bassett's available starting, the ALDS, which he is, I wouldn't mind if they, if they started him even game 2. But you can see in the third paragraph here, Ben Nicholson-Smith speculates that they signed Scherzer to roll him out in October, which would be my worst nightmare. I don't know if I trust Max Scherzer in a playoff series at this point. But let me know down below, because the point of this is, again, we can go back and forth with who this will be, who's going to be selected. The decision is not impossible. It basically is it is an extremely difficult decision here. You have to manage Bo Bichette. You have to manage who your starting pitchers are going to be. Who you decide for your starting pitching directly, has a direct implication on who your bullpen arms are going to be. And at the end of the day, if you keep Bassett and Scherzer both on the team, you have to leave out Nance, Fisher, like both of them, right? Or probably one of them. Can you afford to leave Tommy Nance out? Maybe, but would that be worth it? So many different ways to go about it. And if you take both Scherzer and Bassett, you're going to have to get rid of probably Fluharty as well. So a lot of, mixed emotions here. And of course, the Jays need Bo Bichette at full strength. But beyond that, and even roster moves aside, they have a huge decision to make surrounding, guess what? The starting rotation. There's been a lot of discourse lately, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. Who's going to go 1, 2, and 3? I'm Gausman, probably Bieber and Savage. But if you want to factor Bassett in there, I could see them going Gausman, Bassett at home, he's way better, and then Bieber for game 3 on the road, more of an experienced pitcher, especially, had in the playoffs, has had some, he's pitched there before. And then, of course, beyond that, maybe a Savage game 4. There's a lot of ways to go around it, folks. A ridiculous amount of ways. And at the end of the day, it's going to be absolutely crazy to see. But Bo Bichette remains the biggest factor. Stay tuned for a video potentially later today or into tomorrow morning on that as updates continue to flow. A couple of other things before we wrap up here. And actually quickly before to put a kind of a lid on the decision topic. Keep in mind here, this article was posted by Ken Rosenthal. Would they entrust a start to righty Chris Bassett, who has not pitched September 18th? Would it be Scherzer? Would it be a Savage? The bullpen, all these different things. Let me know down below, who would you trust to start games 1, 2, 3, and hypothetically 4 and beyond. Now, quick note before we wrap up. Big things. Red Sox, they won yesterday. The best outcome here for me, and let me know your own best outcome down below, is the Red Sox win in 3. We kind of want the Yankees to win tonight just for the fact that, you want them to go to a 3-game series. That's just usually how you want things to go. Maybe extra innings, bullpen. But at the end of the day, you're going to want, for me personally, and let me down below what you guys think about it, I want to see the Red Sox over the Yankees all day. The Yankees terrify me. Yes, the Jays almost swept them twice. They were on fire. They have a ton of power, and I think the Jays are better suited to go up against the Red Sox. Maybe it's a hot take, but that's what I want, so I'm hoping for Red Sox in 3. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Also, Lucas Giolito out for the wild card series, so if they do advance, the Red Sox, that is, their number 2 starter, maybe number 3 starter, depending on how you value, Brian Bayo, is out, right? That's pretty big news. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on all this, folks. Keep you up to date every step of the way. You guys are beasts. Cheers.